Here.
Anita Lowry, Jeff Upton, Jan Throgmorton,
Here.
John Collins,
Here.
Kira Hungate, Don Rollins,
Here.
Joe Tower,
Here.
City Attorney's here, City Clerk is absent. So next is the adoption of our agenda. Is there a motion to adopt our agenda as it was mailed?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda as mailed.
A second.
Motion second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is the approval of our meeting minutes from April 10th. Are there any changes that need to be made there?
One small thing on page 2 under business reports, it doesn't have who it was second by. It says,
Which one is it? 1, 2,
it's,
3?
number 1 under business reports, planning commission, recommended fee changes, motion made by Jan Throgmorton, was second by, it didn't say who was second by.
Does anybody know who's second?
No.
Is anybody here that's willing to take credit for that second?
I,
Go ahead.
go.
I will. Just,
Okay.
it was just it's a mixture of Joe.
All right.
That's harsh.
So with
I
that
know.
change, do we have a motion to approve our meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as known for the change.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is our public forum. So we'll have 2 minutes per speaker. If anybody would like to address the council, please feel free to do so. Okay. We'll close our public forum, move into our business reports. First is the Planning Commission, and they do not have a representative here. At the last Planning Commission meeting, they had, was that in the package? I don't think it was. I don't think they got their minutes in. At the last meeting, they had lot splits, no, they had an adjusted lot, a lot adjustment, up on the hill behind Harps. So the builder who bought that property, he and,
Dorothy Tate.
Dorothy Tate,
Karen Daughtery.
Karen Daughtery, thank you. So Karen was representing Dorothy Tate, but their properties were, I think one was in an L and one was in like a 7 or something. And so they basically straightened up both of their properties. So they made just an adjustment of lots, so they both have a straighter piece of property now. The Planning Commission approved that lot split. The owner, the builder, also talked to the Planning Commission, seeking their blessing to build up to 5 more houses on the backside of that property. They would be smaller homes than the 2 that he currently has up there, but basically wanted to know what kind of guidance they could give him on the front end, if he was going to need to pave that street on out. The Planning Commission said yes. He also mentioned that he has a commercial lot down next to Harps and was wondering if he should try to turn that into residential or put something in commercial. So, but that was just talk. He was getting their ideas there. And I think that concluded their meeting, other than they did make the recommendation for us to approve their fee changes, which I think that was a prior meeting. The attorney has that ready for us tonight. That has only been less than about 3 weeks ago, and that's all I remember of that meeting. That's pretty bad. So Joe, I'll let you butcher the water meeting when we get there.
Sure.
All right, economic development and beautification. They didn't have a lot going on this month either. They did co-sponsor the tree planting we had at the new city administration building. So we planted a yellow wood there. I'm not sure what a yellow wood is, but at the planting portion, it's not a very pretty tree. It's just kind of a stick with a couple forks on it. But it's supposed to be a big tree once it does grow into its maturity. They are meeting Thursday night at what time? Paige, going to those?
6:30, I think.
I'm sorry, they're meeting Tuesday night at 6:30. And they'll meet right here. All right, any other questions about beautification?
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
On that note, I do have at home some flowers now, some annuals, some blooming things to go up and put up around the welcome sign
Okay,
to give us a little color. So I'll get that done this week.
very good. And we were gonna get an extra light added up there, that's still in the plans. I don't think it has happened yet, it is being donated, so
I talked to
Jennifer or Isaac?
Jennifer today.
Okay.
And I texted her about the flowers and let her know that I would get it taken care of. And she said, well, you're putting the pressure on Isaac then, because he doesn't have the light put in yet, so.
So it's Jennifer Ogle and her husband Isaac is donating the light, so. All right, up next, John Riley with our library report.
Not a whole lot for you tonight, just things are going well at the library. We're getting ready for our big move, and that's kind of a lot of our focus these days is trying to be as well prepared as possible when we do get word that the construction is going to start. So we have a stat sheet in there, and you might have noticed that we've weeded a lot more than we've added this month. So, and that should continue, for the foreseeable future. Trying to go through the collection and make sure we don't have things that are sort of dead weight that shouldn't be there. Let's see. We've continued to host a lot of kindergarten and first grade classes and get cards for those kids. And so we added 76 patrons in April. So a lot of that is the pint-sized variety, which we're happy to do. And I think we'll have issued, pretty much the complete kindergarten and first grade population with cards, which they get excited about. So, and we want to make sure they know where the library is and know, be comfortable there and know what we have. And so when summer does come around, they'll probably be the ones dragging their parents in to check out books and other things. So, and we're going to try to patch together a children's summer reading program, basically with volunteers. Susan McCown is helping me a lot with that, and so we'll have regular programs on Wednesdays for 6 weeks. Wednesdays, I think well, anyway, we'll put out a flyer and announce it when we finally get everything planned. But we do have a event scheduled for July 25th with Tommy Terrific, which I think will be our last program. He does a magic show. He's been here he was here a couple years ago and real popular, does a real good job. And so at that point, we'll try to also have a little award ceremony, prize giveaways and things for the kids who participated in the reading. They can turn in their final reading logs and everything. So, and that's about all I have. So.
John, I had a question for you, and I don't know if you have your report in front of you or not.
Yeah, for library. We'll go ahead. I've got it memorized. So.
Okay. So you had an online catalog logins.
Oh, yeah.
715. Is that patrons using like digital media, checking out ebooks?
Yes. Well, that would be you would have to log in to do that. So that's just I guess a gauge of how many people are using the library from home or from a device of some kind. So it's just we try to let people know that you can use the online catalog, and you can also go there for ebooks. You can get audio books, in audio files, so they're completely digital. So there's a lot of resources there that don't require coming to the library or not even physical items. So.
And so is the catalog? I didn't really understand where you're going there. So is catalog logins, is that just logging into a catalog to see what is available, or is that checkouts as well? Is that everything?
Well, it could be just somebody logging in to order some things or to check out something. It could be anything. It could be just seeing what's available. But that's, it's mainly just, how many different patrons have logged in that month,
Okay.
so.
That hasn't been in there in the past, has it?
No, I think I'm trying to get a little more reporting. I don't think that we have statistics on how many ebooks are checked out from West Fork, although we do have that for the system, so maybe I could start including that as well, and that would be interesting, I guess, to find out, how many people are, reading just electronic books, that are from the library, because it's all free, so, it's, that's always the advantage, I guess, of the library, is, Amazon is always there, and we're not really competing with them, but the library is going to be free at least. So.
Okay. Any other questions, Joe?
I would suggest on that summer reading program, maybe making half sheets and passing them out to all the kids at elementary.
Yeah, definitely. We want to.
For the,
Okay.
when it's gonna be in advertising, because once they've left school, it's gonna be hard to advertise to them.
Exactly. Yeah.
That
So.
way you get a bunch of people for the programs and stuff.
Right, and the last day of school is what, the
23rd.
23rd? Is that right? Okay, so that's our
Maybe
deadline.
that Monday,
Yeah. Okay.
get them passed out. You make them up and I'll go to the.
Oh yeah. Okay, get them in their backpacks.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Any other questions for John? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Vicki?
It'll take me longer to get up here than it has to say anything.
Basically, for April, it's just been busy but calm. We, really the only thing to report is we did go, to our annual spring conference on the 19th and the 20th. And, that, which I know we've told you in times past, but that adds to my certification because we get certification hours for each of those workshops that we have when we're there. And so when I build up 30 of those, which is basically about 3 years, then that will certify me to be a chief clerk. And in the state, the way it is, you have to have those certification hours. You can't just be hired in as a chief clerk. You have to have the certification hours. I mean, you can work as a chief clerk, but it's the rulings and the way it fits. If you're going to do that, you could be hired, but you would have to. That would have to be part of your hiring goal to be able to maintain that job. So, so I am halfway there. Maybe just a little bit more, somewhere in there. But we hired Cindy McAdoo as our part-time clerk. And we hired her the Monday before we went to that on Thursday. So we drug her with us so that she could wander around and think, what in the world, what does all this mean? So but she's doing absolutely phenomenal. She's picking up on things quickly. And Pauletta laughed at me. I said, if you're going to just send me to city council and let me have free reign, I'm going to tell them that we need to find the money to hire her full time, so we might actually get caught up around this place. And she said, well, all right, I'm just going to tell them that I didn't authorize you to say that. So anyway, that's really all that I have to report unless y'all have any questions.
I have one question, and I think I asked this to Pauletta last month, but I just want to clarify. Do you have the report in front of
I
you?
do.
So, columns I and K on that report. We have year-to-date, and we have 17 year-to-date.
Yes.
And so, if I'm reading that correctly, line 4 across,
Yes.
is the West Fork PD up that much year-to-date?
Absolutely.
Does everyone see that? Last year at this time, the PD had entered 152 citations. This year, they've entered 524.
It's been like that the last 2 years.
Yes, and last year specifically, we were down officers. We were down a chief. John was acting, but that was not too long after Brian left, I don't think, April. Right in there, so Chief Watts left right in there somewhere. So we were down staff as well, but no, these guys are working really.
We used to average 26 to 36 tickets a month, so it's up quite a bit.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
These guys are
Yeah.
working hard. They really are. And to my knowledge, well, I know that anything that I'm aware of, if there's a call, they're taking it and they're getting it done. I mean, I can speak personally. Wasn't me personally, but I can speak personally of this weekend. someone I was with had had enough of the barking dogs in the neighborhood, because he's been there 3 years and it's constant, just constant barking. And he finally got fed up and he called and got county dispatch, and Officer Riley was there in 5 minutes, maybe. Went down and apparently had a conversation. We never heard the dog again all night. So that's the kind of stuff that, I mean, he's even a retired police officer, and he said, I hate doing this. They don't want to deal with dogs, barking dogs. It's a pain. It's loose dogs.
Right.
It's the worst call you can get. It's aggravating. But he was on it instantly, and so I just can't say enough. They're doing a great job, and they're also doing a great job with checking in with us at the court. Constant communication all the time. They come in just individually and check in with us and visit and see if they're doing something wrong or if they need to do something different. So they're really educating themselves, and I know I'm speaking for John's department, but it's from my standpoint and how well the departments are meshed and working together. It's just a really great thing, and it shows here. The one thing that doesn't look good this month, and there's not really a necessary reason for it, other than I know some things got entered a little bit later, but our disbursements are down for the month, which is pretty unusual for the last few months that we've had. But if you look at year-to-date, we're still slightly above the year-to-date from last year. So, and I meant to get the numbers for as of end of work day today, and I forgot after I made my deposit. But I know just myself, not Pauletta's online deposits, I had 3 days in a row that I deposited like $1,500 to $1,600 a day. Just for the first week of May. So it's going to be a good month. So it's going well.
Any questions for Vicki?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Chief?
All right. We had 343 service calls, 24 reports, with 122 citations, so they were down a little bit this month. 40 warrant arrests and 7 misdemeanors, no felonies. We've started to see the liquor violations come back, but that's only going to heat up with summertime. What can I say? The guys are putting in all the work. They're working hard. I mean, you got to give them the credit for that. I hope that the new reporting system that we're doing is helping out with these guys. They're now calling in their reports on the phone, and it's transcribed by a secretary. It keeps them out in their cars instead of in the office. So if you see a West Fork officer and he's talking to himself, he's not really talking to himself, he's recording his report. So the only other thing that came up Saturday, we had a kid jump off the bluff, hit his head. My question with that is where the water department's at. Right there, we have a no trespassing sign. I'm not clear on how far back that goes. I'm a little bit worried about the liabilities of, do we just let them continue to jump if it's a no trespassing area? Do we get them off the...
Or can we put signs?
Can we
on
put
the
signs
bluff?
up there on the bluff that says they can't jump? Because my biggest fear is we're going to have one of them. It was after a flood. He didn't check anything. He just jumped off there full bore and hit his head. He was under the water for about 2 minutes before they got him dragged out. Rushed to the hospital. Luckily, they think he's gonna make it. But that doesn't mean the next one is.
What are we looking at? Do we want them to be able to jump off the bluff
No.
at all, ever?
To me, no. I think it's dangerous. I mean, they're not. The bluff isn't enough now.
How about
Now they
shut down
climb up in
swimming
the tree.
completely, right? We do that.
Can we do that?
Yeah. All right, so first discussion, liability-wise, so the city's tort immune.
Okay.
And so when people do that and have accidents, that we're shielded from tort liability, so we're shielded from liability.
Okay.
But Chief, I have one of the longest cases I was involved in where that was challenged was 2 kids that hopped a fence at a quarry in North Little Rock and jumped in and drowned. And so, you know, what the parents said was, we didn't do enough to keep them out of the quarry. You know, we had a fence and we had signs, and that wasn't enough. Now, ultimately, the city prevailed, but it was a long, and just very painful case to go through. And so, you know, signs and a couple of stiff tickets maybe, get the word out even, if there's no jumping. We're gonna be called no fun, but it's a whole lot safer, and there's no.
But we also don't wanna drag somebody out of there.
People are gonna do
Dead.
it anyway, probably, right?
They're gonna try. Oh, yeah, sure.
So,
Well, that leads into a question. How much is bluff? Climbing up near the water department building? A lot of people will climb up the small part where the rock recesses. I mean, are we talking about shutting
See,
all
I
the
don't,
way down?
that's not very far. That would be up to,
It's kind of up
To
the
you
council.
guys.
I say you have to do it all. Don't let them get on the bluff.
And here's the second part of that question, that it's getting ready to swallow up a lot of your activity, because I've noticed it's busy now, so it's
Yes.
amping up. If you do that, it seems to me that the next thing is.
it's gonna be,
Austin.
it's gonna be very hard for us to enforce that lower bluff. Cause there's no way for us to get to that besides,
And sort of
swimming.
what was-
but the upper bluff, is,
And that's gonna be hard to enforce as well.
It is.
There, they jump off, it's not like they're gonna stand there and let you write them a ticket.
right.
So,
And they've done that to us several times. I'll just swim across the river, so.
now, on the other side of that, several people mentioned they'd like to shut it down. I'm not saying I'm necessarily opposed to that, I'm saying that we have talked to area businesses, Harps, the Dollar General, have all said that they see an uptick in business in the summer when people are coming in. So we need to keep that into consideration as well. Do we need to do something before somebody dies down there? That would be nice. How do we enforce it?
You can't protect the world. I mean, it's sad, but people die every day, everywhere.
I agree with you, Misty, but I don't want to be the one dragging a 15-year-old boy out of that river that's jumped off that tree and hit his head on the rock that I could have prevented. That's
Well,
my biggest thing.
And like I said, if they put the signs and we give him a little extra money to hire have one of the part-timers,
That's
down
the next,
there.
that's the next thing is
and that be, their assignment.
how
Yes.
much manpower and what's it gonna take for us to,
We have actually put it in the budget this year, and I haven't used hardly any of that for part-timers, so we can have them down there.
And I mean,
We've got to
that'd
get
be
the
their
part-timers
Sunday
that want
was
to do it.
So one of the things,
ridiculous.
we've talked about is the police department borrowing like an ATV type vehicle so they can make rounds in the park. It's a long ways back there for an officer to walk. It's also dangerous for one officer to get all the way back there and confront people. So the chief is looking at options there.
And I'm not too sure that we're not gonna do having some part-time guys down there in just plain clothes.
Well,
Just to be a part of the park and see what's going on and
if
where the
that's
trouble
their
is.
assignment, and you had a side-by-side clearly marked, they could go down there and park.
Right.
That'd be their vehicle down there.
And that will stop a large majority of them.
Yeah.
It really will.
Well, when they pull in, they're gonna get their coolers out of their car, and,
Mhm.
especially if they see it patrolled constantly.
If they know that park is patrolled.
Because right now, they watch the patrol vehicle come in.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it's very hard with how that park is set
Yeah.
up.
When John called me last year and said he was almost out of tickets, you were writing a ticket, they would leave and somebody
Yeah.
would pull right into the same spot.
Right in the
they
same
wrote
spot.
ticket. So Chad does have some banners getting ready to go up down there, big banners saying no alcohol, no smoking anywhere but the parking lots.
whatever happened on increasing the fines? Did we do that, or
Yes.
did we?
I believe we did.
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking we did, we talked
They
about all this
listed how much
stuff.
the fine is down there?
There's 7 signs you have to go past
But
before you
does it
get to the
say
sidewalk. I
It
think
says how
so.
much the fine is?
So, Tom, I have a question about if we post signs for the no jumping, are we more liable if, just say, we see them jumping and we don't attempt to give a ticket? There's signs everywhere, they're still jumping, but we don't try to enforce it.
it's dangerous, Christie, like you said, but it's, in a way, it's no more dangerous than speeding. No more dangerous than some of the things people do in their homes. I mean, whether they're abusing drugs or something like that. We just can't be in every house. We can't stop every speeder. We can't stop every person who's
Sure.
jumping. But we're talking about it because it's coming up, right? It's gonna happen. But, and don't get me wrong, we may get sued someday when someone dies and says, you should have done more, you should have done. fences and cables and all this kind of thing. But we're gonna be all right there. And I think what we're doing is we're saying, we need to allocate more resources towards that, which would be signage, we need more patrols, but we can't stop all of it, we just can't.
I think that's just us saying, we don't want you jumping off that bluff.
Yeah, we're paying more attention to it, and my recollection of the stopping of the swimming at all was resources. It wasn't that we didn't want people to have fun, it was we just could not, we didn't have the resources to control it effectively, because it was constant.
Well, it's so busy down there. To do it effectively, you need somebody down there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, during the summer months, you need them there, Saturday and Sunday, all the time.
What are we talking, 500 people down there at a time on
Yeah.
Saturday or Sunday?
Oh, yeah, and my officers are extremely outmanned down there.
Yeah.
They just are. They've been in some bad situations.
See, and that's why, you know, if you put a part-time, 2 of them down there, and we got an ATV for them, you know,
Mhm.
even a 4-wheeler,
Right?
you know,
Something to have the presence down there too.
yeah.
Would there be any merit to, on the high bluff, putting a cable barrier up? Some metal bollards with 2 cables? Yes.
Just get them something higher to jump off of.
I just tie a rope
They
to
was climbing.
the-
Last year they climbed a tree.
Oh, yeah, watch them.
I say the no jumping and no trespassing. And then you got that to hold on if they do come out.
At least we can say we've warned them.
Yeah.
We've told them we don't want them to do it.
Yeah.
Well, why not just have a, like, swim at
Oh,
your
yeah,
own risk,
I wouldn't
or,
be-
you know,
We can post a more
I don't care if they
explicit
swim.
sign. It said, if you jump
I mean,
here,
jump at your
you
own
can
risk.
get hurt, you can break your neck, it's not
Well.
jumping.
I say no jumping.
I don't think you
That's
should.
dangerous.
Don't give them an option.
And they're still going to.
Good possibility.
Well, I think they're
still
speeding
going
and such, but.
There'll be a few of them that'll be afraid,
Yeah.
especially
Especially
when somebody
if-
gets a ticket and the word gets out.
What,
You know, parents are gonna say, all right, if you get a ticket down there, you know, your butt's mine, so.
Actually, they're probably gonna just call Chief Nelson, and chew him out.
Probably
right?
so, but, you
I do
know,
have one follow-up question.
Before you do,
Jump
Joe,
off there also.
Right.
The attorney even recommended that the sign say no jumping, that you know, it's, there's a risk to it, there's a hazard, it's dangerous.
Whatever you wanna say, you know, this water, you will break your neck.
Yeah, just letting them know, hey,
You can become paralyzed or dead or worse.
yes.
Last year, there was brief talk about taking the dam structure out. Did that go anywhere, or where?
So I think there's still some talk about that with the Beaver Watershed Alliance. I think they're talking about putting some money together to do that. And I think that maybe they even have to get some approval from the Corps of Engineers on that. So
Okay.
I think there's some red tape in the way. I don't think it's completely dead, but I don't think anything's been decided one way or the other.
Well, as an eventuality, if that concrete abutment dam goes out, that'll
March
change
seventh.
everything.
oh,
Well,
that'll-
it'll, especially during the summer.
oh, yeah.
it won't be a river, it'll be a creek.
Yeah.
But they jump off of it into the mud puddle
Boy, they do
in
too.
July.
When
What's
it's-
that philosopher Ron White?
Any questions for the chief?
Anything else from you?
Chief's gonna leave, he's got some studying to do, so he has 2 weeks left. And he will be officially complete with his training program,
Thank goodness,
so,
absolutely. So, that's it? Anybody else? All right.
thanks, John. So Isaac is not here. We'll let Joe give the water report.
Well, you've got an engineer from McClellan.
Yeah, let's see.
Would you like to step off and say something professional before I butcher it up?
You go first, I'll jump up. I know Isaac wanted me to talk about the
System.
the sewer monitoring
report.
flows.
Yeah. So Joe, if you would, kind of give us a rundown of what happened in the meeting, what you guys discussed, and then we'll get Nick up here to give some specifics.
We talked about street cut repairs and the status of those, where we're at on that. The street paving update, there are bids out There were bids put out, and Tomlinson Asphalt won the contract. It's getting ready to be awarded, and we anticipate having later this month or next month. We talked about the pump issue down at the wastewater treatment plant that I think you can do better explaining than I can as far as the pump capacity and a soda straw situation with the lines that are coming out of the pump. We also talked about the planning commission and the development that happening up on Harts, behind Harts. And one of the things that I took away from the meeting, last time the city had some involvement putting some utility lines in. This next time around, as it develops, the developer is going to, at the front end, pay for engineering studies to make sure that he has water and sewer correct, and there's no impediments in the future development, and he bears 100% of the cost. The city is not going to go up and do any more work for any developers. We talked about the Dye Creek Bridge starting, the crossing has started. Incidentally, I walked down and looked at it this weekend walking the dog, and it looks pretty good. I think Jeff will be happy. It'll be another 6 weeks, it ought to be done. We did discuss the building, plumbing, and mechanical permits. We're revising the city's building codes. We're going to adopt a mechanical code with permits and fees, and as well as trying to get an erosion control code in place. We've changed our policy regards to inspections. We've got some builders that like to call at the last minute or as they need the inspections instead of giving it 24-hour notice. And that is going to be put out through word of mouth. I don't know if it'll have any dissemination through a website or any city memoranda, but we are going to start going to the 24-hour notice on all building inspections.
Which is customary.
That's standard everywhere.
Any questions for Joe? Was there already a man? Nick? So Nick's going to give you, he's going to give you a lot of stuff, and there's some charts and graphs in the back that he may. Oh, we have that. Do we not have that in here? Yeah,
he said
okay.
that they should be in there.
Yeah, so you guys can try to follow along as he goes through that if you would like.
Yeah, Isaac wanted me to go through. Well, a couple of weeks ago we did, back in, we put flow monitors in back in October, and then the rains never came. We waited for months and months, and finally, end of February, we got the rains we needed, and RJM pulled their meters in early March, and then started processing the data. A couple of weeks ago, I got their draft report, so it's kind of the all anticipated, how did we do, kind of report card, and I thought I was going to go through with y'all. I have some tables in the back, and I know there's a lot of information in there, but what I wanted to do is compare, back in this time in 2014, RJM had come out and done flow metering, exact same locations before we did any work. So this is kind of the pre versus post, how did we do? When we looked at, let's start with the good news, it's kind of the way I present the Isaac. Said, the good news or the bad news first? Because the bad news isn't necessarily bad, it's just, we'll have to work through it. But on the good news is, on our average daily flow, when we did this study 4 years ago, we were saying the average flow was 155,000 gallons a day of sewage coming to the plant. It's on an average dry day like this. Now it's 125,000. So we've taken 30,000 gallons a day out of the system that was just seeping in through cracks and pipes and all that. So
to give you some reference, we sell about 130,000 gallons a day. So we were selling 130,000 gallons of water. 150,000 were making it to the sewer plant.
You were producing more sewage than you were. Well, it was just groundwater getting in. So we've shifted the balance, which is how it should be. So that's a good thing there. And then on, we look at a few things there. We look at dry weather flow. We look at, and we do look at infiltration, which is after a rain event, your soils are saturated, it's going to seep in through the pipes. And we had some good results there. The biggest one we saw was in Basin 1, I call it, over there at West Fork Acres, where we did about half of the work. You know, we replaced over a mile's worth of pipe over there. We cut the estimated infiltration from about 250,000 gallons a day that would happen after a rain event to about 3,000 gallons a day. So we saw a significant reduction there. And then we saw reductions in 2 of the 3 other basins. One of them, Basin 3, we didn't see much there, but there wasn't a whole lot of infiltration there. So, I mean, we've gone from over 300,000 gallons a day to 75,000. So that's good there, definitely. A lot of that is sealing up those manholes. We spent a lot of the money outside of West Fork Acres replacing manhole tops and sealing them up where rain can seep in there. The other measure we do is on inflow, which is when you get a hard rain and flow's coming down the streets and your creeks and getting in your system. That's on the second page of tables. That's where I have at the bottom there. Looking at that, out of basins 1, 3, and 4, we look at 2 rain events. We look at a 1-year storm. They call it, and a 5-year. It's basically a theoretical storm that would occur. You know, a 1-year storm is about 1.4 inches in an hour, and a 5-year storm is 2 inches in an hour. And just for reference, I think the heaviest rain we got in this period was about 1 inch per hour. So we were here on the curve when a 5-year is out there. So, you know, we're projecting out a little bit there. We're extrapolating some of this, but not as much as we did in the first study. We only got a 1/2 inch per hour rain in 2014. It was a really dry period. So I feel like our data is more representative this time around as far as rainfall. But 3 out of the 4 basins, we went down. Basin 2, that's the one where I kind of bolded it. We did see a pretty good increase in Basin 2, and that's the main one that runs from Mr. McKnight's field, crosses the river, and runs up to the plant. It collects Basins 3 and 4. It's basically right up the heart of the city. We saw a pretty significant increase there, and that was hard to. I know it's hard to see that number after you spend a lot of time and effort fixing the system. But I sat down with the guy from RJN Group that prepared this, and I talked to Isaac too, and I said, really, I see 2 things going on here. One is, in Basin 2, we did a lot of manhole repairs in low-lying, flood-prone areas that, the water will back up and actually leave the system. We've now fixed those where it can't get out anymore. We've sealed it up, we've bolted down manholes in several areas where it can't leave anymore, which is a good thing.
So in the past, what he's saying is, in the past, a lot of times with big rains or floods, the manhole cover would actually get floated off,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a relief there.
Mm-hmm.
It no longer does that, which is part of the reason why we're seeing that uptick.
Yeah, that's a good way to explain it. It's almost like relief valves in your
Yeah.
system, because I know we have one in particular that said, after every flood, they'd have to go chase down the lid somewhere and get picked up, and they'd have to go find it and put it back on, because it would just, the pressure would push it off. So we have sealed that up, which is a good thing for the river. And also I think, I mentioned before, just the rainfall. I think we got a better representation of the rain this time than 4 years ago. We got a lot more quantity and intensity. We still didn't hit that magic 5-year storm, which it's hard to believe with all the rain we got in February, as heavy as it came down. But so I wouldn't chalk all that up to necessarily that, we put that much flow back in the system. I think also too, when you're projecting the curve, if you're projecting from here up to here, your confidence bands are pretty wide. When you're starting up here, it tightens up a little better. So I think that's another reason for the increase there. And I've gone back to RJN. I've asked them to actually provide these comparisons, directly in their report, because they kind of danced around. They're a little leery of showing, hey, an increase. But something I've asked them to look at is a apples-to-apples storm between 2014 and this period. same intensity, same rainfall amount for a 24-hour period. And let's overlay the charts and see what the flows are doing, because I know Isaac's told me, and the guys at RJN from Seeing the Day, they said when it rains, we see a spike in that basin, but it comes down really quickly, which means there's probably some isolated areas we still need to address, but before you get a rain and it would spike, and it'd take days for the flow to come down. I mean, the plant would be, they'd be, you know, just trying to manage through for days, sometimes weeks after a heavy rain. And now it's, I think with the last heavy rains we got, Isaac said, you know, that was 24 hours that they had to get some pumps out there to keep things moving, but that's a huge change. So I want to be able to show that we've cut out a lot of that volume. And, you know, I know Isaac's purchased a flow meter. Hopefully we'll get that soon. We spent some time Friday going around after the rains and identified.
He's already started making some repairs on some manholes.
Yeah, we found one right where two creeks come together, and you could hear the water rushing in. It's something that you, until the creeks are flowing, you know, you get down in there, it's down in the bottom, but you see pinholes and it's spraying in through there. So it's just going to be a ongoing process. But I still think there's some isolated areas. I know Isaac's folks have been, we saw them out there checking cleanouts. They're going through neighborhoods and looking for those things. I mean, a 4-inch hole in the ground that's a drain, you can put a lot of water through that. And I know there's been some things with pumps he's found. Some people have sump pumps in the low areas that pump in the system, making sure those aren't down in the low. They tend to be in the low spot, and all the runoff goes to that too, so it's pumping the storm water too. It doesn't seem like much, but you know, 10 gallons a minute is a lot of gallons in a day, kind of thing. So we're going to keep plugging ahead there.
And Nick, before you get any further, I think Isaac mentioned, and some of you guys were probably on the council when they did this originally, but they ran a camera in our pipes to try to determine what needed to be fixed. And I think Isaac told me there were 70,000 feet of sewer pipe in the city, and they ran a camera through about 2,500 of it. Okay, so that's another reason why Isaac and them are still out there trying to fix some of this. Is 2,500 feet out of 70,000 feet is scratching the surface, right? So,
yeah, they tried. They did their smoke.
Hey.
Yeah. They did smoke. Yeah, they did the smoke testing, and they tried to isolate the key areas, and then we ended up TVing West Fork Acres, which is another 6,000 foot. But yeah, there's still thousands of feet out there. It's just, you know, you get to that cost break point too. I think it's, you know, $3 a foot to run a camera, and you think about 70,000 foot, that's over $200,000 just a camera, a system. So
that's what the flow meter will help us do. We can put it in and start backtracking and try to isolate it down to a spot, and then TV that area instead of having somebody come down and do 20,000 feet pipe for $100,000. We can isolate it down to maybe 2,500 feet and get a camera and get those repairs done.
Yeah, I think we've already honed in on a few areas of, you know, really where we're crossing creeks will be a good, you know, culprit potentially, and then also we've got a couple pipes crossing the railroad tracks there, and you know, over time those pipes sometimes, you know, when they're under heavy loading, they'll shift. I mean, we have one under Highway 71 by Arvest that we fixed. That was one I forgot to mention. Actually, we saw the base flow go up a little because the pipe was broken under the highway, so it was going and leaving, and you know, part of it was, and now we fixed that up, so we actually saw a slight increase there, which I wasn't surprised to see. But you know, we'll keep plugging away at it. As soon as I get the final report, I'm gonna get it in the state so we can get off High Center and start designing a pump station in Forest Main and move forward there. Y'all have any questions?
Is Bono shorter in real life than he is on the screen?
I was sitting in the nosebleeds, but he.
So he looked that tall.
Well, yeah, he looked, but compared to the other band members, he did short. But for I think I looked him up because I was like, I didn't know how old he was. He's 58. And I was like, well, he was running up and down that stage. I mean, they had this long track, and all of them.
He had a lot to say, didn't he?
He had a lot to say too.
He had a lot to teach us, didn't he? We went to church, didn't we?
We did, not as much as I thought so, but they're good performers. But yeah, that's why I missed the committee meeting last week. I was playing in Tulsa, watching
It's a hard drive back, wasn't it, talking about rain?
I followed that storm the whole way.
Me too.
I was in it the entire way. It was rough.
Felt like a rain god, there was so much rain.
Yeah. So,
Thank you, Nick.
thank y'all.
Isaac, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can add a couple things.
And you don't have to, but if you want to, please go ahead. Joe went through your reports, and
Not very well.
We,
I'll second that.
just to add on to what Nick said, we got 4 inches of rain on the 3rd and 4th. Our manhole overflowed there at the plant for about 27 hours, and then it was back down. So, especially in the hard driving rains, most of that runs off. We don't get a whole lot of saturation. We can deal with those pretty well. It's the slow rains over 2 or 3 days that kill us. So we're still seeing a lot of inflow there. Like Nick said, we are getting a flow meter. I hope to have that in about 2 weeks. The only big thing I had was we do have our asphalt contractor picked out. I think that's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
I got to give some props to Nick. He helped me get all the bid specs and the contract and stuff together. So, well, thank you, Nick. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have that moving forward and we can just adapt it to our projects. But other than that, we're just...
While you're there, Joe would ask Nick to talk about the pump. I don't think we forgot that, so if you would go ahead and talk about
The
that.
pump.
At the pump station.
Oh.
Turning the pump.
Oh, yeah, we did have, we replaced all the plumbing in there with the check valves and stuff that we had leaking through. We had, I can't think of that group, Evans Enterprise. They sent their engineer down and didn't see anything wrong with our pump sizing. I had Nick come down and take a look at it. We pretty much narrowed it down to, our pumps are pumping fine. We're just trying to pump it through a straw to the tank. So we're trying to fill our huge tank up there with a little bitty line. So kicking 2 pumps on don't change our pump time at all because we're pumping all that we can pump through that little old main. So we've just kind of set that on the back burner. We may look a little harder on into the year with maybe trying to rebuild a pump. I know pump 3 is not, it don't pump hardly anything at all, so it's probably going to have to be rebuilt. I did find out today, of course, the Dye Creek project is going. I don't know if anybody's seen that. Jeff is not here to. I did get a number back today on getting our bridge done. It was scary. I'm having them reprice that with us doing some of the work to maybe get it down, and then we may just have to drop back and punt. I don't feel comfortable, and Chrissy and I talked about it, going $80,000 into our reserves to fix what is a low water bridge now, and will still be a low water bridge, seems a little extreme. So we may have to drop back and do something different there. Maybe put it back better than it is, but put it back similar to what it is now. So, but that's the gist of what we've got going on. That and cutting grass just as fast as we can.
Any questions for Isaac?
I've got a couple of questions for him. Should I stand up or come up here?
Yeah, sure. Come on up here and
Come
tell
on
us
up
who
here,
you
I'll
are.
share with you.
Yeah, I've actually talked to you on the phone a couple times. I'm Jeff Montgomery. I've been in the area for about 30 years, and I'm looking at purchasing property along the West Fork of the White River. And I've got a really big concern on the Dye Creek Bridge, the new one coming in there. I've been a paddler for 30 years, so I'm very, very familiar with the water flow, and I've climbed 30 foot over, trees and brush, at low water bridges. The big concern that I have is that the new bridge that's going in now by the railroad track, it was a low water bridge. It was about 2 or 3 feet above the bottom of the creek. So the water would flow over it pretty easily. Right now, since they've started on it, they've got, I guess, was it 5 or 6 foot concrete?
Yeah, they're like 6 foot
Box culverts.
Yeah,
box culverts. After this last rain, it was probably, 3 to 4 inches, there was a sycamore tree that went right through one, and the root ball hung up in the end. And so the water, when I got there, was lapping up right at the very top of the bridge. So what's happening, that was actually a lucky scenario because it only plugged up one hole. If the tree would have went sideways, would have blocked it up, tons of brush would have gone in there, and it would have gone right over the bridge. The other thing is the flow of the water, there's two concrete walls that they're going to do. The water's diverted directly into that bank. 2/3 of that water flow is not normal. They're trying to redirect that water directly into the bank. I've got video of it at the peak of that, if you guys would like to see it. I can show you after the fact. But I'm very, very concerned that that water is going to go over that bridge, and there will be an area where it'll dam up.
I've seen their hydraulic engineering that they've done on that. They're cutting the main channel down 10 feet, and their thought process is there will be no water coming down that channel other than what it collects. They're trying to keep all the water into the main channel. So with those big 30-foot flow-through culverts and 10 foot down, the water will flow through there and none will come through that. That's just an overflow, really, is what comes through there. So with the water level down, that shouldn't see hardly any water.
Is that on the main channel or the small?
The main channel should see all the water, and the small channel should not.
Right, because the other day when that came through, I sat and watched 3 trees just literally on the east side just flow right off.
Well, and,
Yeah,
and
right off.
I've talked to their contractor already, because the channel that they cut through the main bridge, they directed it right at our sewer outfall.
Right.
And we lost about 12 feet, and now our pipe's like 6 inches from hanging out in the water, so.
Yeah, well, I saw 3 large trees
Yeah.
just that day just go down. But my biggest concern is that water flow, where the bridge is now, where they stopped. 1/3 of that creek channel, which is basically the western side of the West Fork of the White River, is, you know, if you go out there now, you can see where it's totally washed out. A whole third of that, they're just going to bring in riprap, I believe it is. And so that stuff, if you've been out there before, I've got before pictures of this, during and after, or to current right now, but you can see where that's washed out. I think it's going to be one of those scenarios down the road, you're going to think, you know what, we should have built that up another 3 or 4 feet, because what's happening, you're going to have those 4 or 5 culverts, stuff's just going to collect there. I mean, I've paddled for 30 years, it's going to collect there, and every single time, that's just a 3-inch rain, that's not a big rain, and it's going to be a mess. If you get a 5 or 10-inch rain.
Thought this weekend, because it's the east culvert,
Right.
that tree's jammed in, and if you've seen it, so if you looked at the wing foundation for the wing abutment,
Right.
it's actually undercut, so you're looking at 3 or 4 inches underneath that right now. And I was looking around and looking at elevations, what I think they're going to end up at. It is pretty obvious it's going to be a side channel.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's going to be minimized quite a
And they
bit.
raised it 3.5, it's almost 3.5 feet, they raised that one
Correct.
up, so that channel, that bridge deck is gonna be elevated quite a bit.
Well, that helped it for sure, but like I said, if it was an arched bridge, water would flow underneath it. But I'm gonna tell you right now, water, it's, you know, the limbs and trees and debris, it's gonna jam up in there. I mean, that one tree that went straight through, if it's sideways in 15 minutes, you're gonna have a
Well, that's
clogged up
because
mess.
they still had most of the, I mean, it was
It's
essentially,
not diverted yet.
it was essentially a dam still yet, because there was 10 feet of drain tiles stacked on top of one another. Every time it washed out, McClinton just threw more drain tiles out and poured more concrete on it, so it just kept, they was just building it up. That's why it's cut your property and our property and all that, because it just goes out around the bridge and back down, so.
So they're gonna dig a deeper channel upstream?
The channel will go down 10 feet, and to the south, they're gonna cut that out 80 feet, and to the north, they're gonna go about 50 feet.
Right.
And cut all that out, down 10 feet from where the bridge deck was. So the channel should stay down
Right.
now, so.
Okay, well, I think
That's
it-
their thought process. I know they did about $25,000 worth of damage with the tree going through their culvert. They had to drop back.
Right, and I mean, I hope, I hear what you're saying, and I hope you're wrong,
Right.
Obviously.
I hope I am, but.
I can tell you that,
Right.
you know, you said if it was an arched bridge, that we wouldn't have to, and I agree. Coming up with that kind of money, I don't know where we would do it.
Right.
You know, there's been a lot of money go into the study of it, and the planning of it to this point that the city has not, you know, it's not like we've sent, I haven't been out there doing the study, you know, there's been engineers out there that.
Yeah, and that's.
And they've been working with the Corps of Engineers.
That's a totally
and,
separate.
Beaver Watershed Alliance.
That's
so.
the county is doing all that.
Right.
We're hands off on that.
But
Yeah.
my point is that the Corps of Engineers have been involved, Beaver Watershed Alliance. So concerned parties, you know, with the Beaver Watershed Alliance in there, mean, at one point, they didn't want the bridge going back, period. I think once they saw that it was gonna go back, they started participating to try to minimize any erosion and control flooding to the best of their ability, so.
I would just highly, highly recommend, and like I said, I'm not an engineer at all, but, I spend 100 days a year on the water, and when it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. But on that right-hand side, you got about a third of that creek bed. That's part of the natural flow of that creek, and it's just gonna jam up in there, I'll be glad to show you guys a video. I've got 3 or 4 videos on there, but another video I've got too, you might keep a close eye on the Crossman Construction. A couple of those metal culverts they dug out, I just watched those float right down the river as well, along with a lot of the 2x4s and a lot of the equipment that they had to build it. It just swept it away, long gone. So, but I was out there working, and what's that crashing around? Look out there, and metal culverts floating down the river. So it might be something to keep an eye on.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Isaac? All right, thank you, sir. So Chad is not here. He is diligently working away at the ballparks. I believe in our meeting he said that he didn't have a lot going on other than ball at this time. So he has the parks looking exceptionally well. I don't know if everyone's been down there and saw the paving that he had completed around the concession stand, but that looks really good. It fixed a lot of the mud holes that we used to have standing water around the concession stand and restroom, so it looks really nice. Any questions about parks? Travis, you want to give a fire report?
Good evening, everyone. I'm obviously not Mark. He is getting ready for his daughter's wedding. We've got a couple things going on. We have a couple people that have completed basic training for their fire department skills. So we've got a few new firefighters. Hopefully they'll do a good job. We have another person who's gone to EMR class, or first responder class, and that'll give us another medical responder, which is really good. And then we started about 6 years ago or 7 years ago, we had a youth program called Exploring, where we had some young kids that came in, and 14 to 21, and they learned about the fire department and how things were going. 2 of those are currently our firefighters, full firefighters. And due to firefighter children reaching that age, we've decided to pull the trigger on that again. That worked out great last time. We've extended it to cover all of emergency services, so they'll get some law enforcement, some EMS, and some fire training and knowledge in those areas, and hopefully we can scoop some more kids into emergency services and keep them from being hoodlums. Other than that, everything's going good and normal. Call volume is about normal. You guys have it there, so I don't need to talk about that. Do you have any questions or anything that I can help with?
So just so everyone knows, Travis is one responsible for these graphs that we're getting from the fire department, also responsible for what we were getting from the police department. I should have get John, I believe, here. He's been busy, so I haven't been holding him to his graphs.
Yeah.
He is putting in a lot of time, but the graphs are awesome.
If there's ever a way you want that data changed or more data, just let me know.
It is so nice to be able to see where we were in a prior month versus where we are now. The graph showing responses is nice as well. It really paints a picture of what you guys are doing. So.
It makes us feel good too. Sometimes.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Christie?
So our bank balances went up quite a bit this last month, $124,000. A large chunk of that was due to a reimbursement that we received from the state for the McKnight Street sidewalk project. We turned in that reimbursement request last year, and we just received it this month. So we had $63,000 reimbursed for that. So that went back into the street department to use for. We'll use that money for engineering services for the new sidewalk down on Robinson Street. That should cover that cost. But that's one of the main reasons for that increase. Also in there, I put, what I thought was a final, expense sheet for our City Works building. After this went out, I got a call from Baldwin and Shell, and there was actually a, discrepancy in one of the last pay apps. One of the contractors turned their pay app in wrong, their retainage fee was done wrong or something, so we'll have, I think he said about $2,000, still that we owe one of the contractors that we'll get a bill in for. So that'll come in, so that should put us around $3,000, under budget from what, Baldwin and Shell had quoted us, so I still think we did really good on that project. And there's some money left over in the bank account that once we know everything is, completely paid and done, we'll just, basically have them, turn around and put that on the loan.
Any questions for Christie?
Y'all liking it?
We love it.
Good.
All right, next is our new business. There was no questions for Christie, right? Other than Dawn? All right. So new business, ordinance 473, amend ordinance 446, schedule of fees for the planning commission. This is what we talked about at the last meeting. Is there any questions on that? Comments?
It's like the general area with everybody else around us.
It does. Questions or comments? I entertain a motion to approve that.
Do a motion to suspend the rule
Yes.
and approve the emergency clause.
I'll make that motion.
Also. Motion is second to suspend the rules. Let's vote the emergency clause.
Let's have a roll call.
Do what?
Roll call vote.
Okay. Misty Cottle,
Yes.
Anita Lowry, Jeff Upton, Jan Throgmorton,
Yes.
John Collins.
Yes.
Don Rollins.
Yes.
Joe Tower.
Yes. So rules suspended, Mayor, now you would hear a motion to approve the rule, as y'all read the title of the ordinance amended to 150405. Have fees of chapter 1504, so we will place the title of the municipal fees. Charge for certain planning and zoning permits and services, municipal preparing emergency, lower fees.
Yes.
That's not very exciting. But now, Mayor, you'd entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second.
Now, require a roll call vote.
Misty Cottle,
Yes.
Jan Throgmorton,
Yes.
John Collins.
Yes.
Don Rollins.
Yes.
Joe Tower.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Because we want to save people money as soon as possible, Mayor, there's an emergency clause on the ordinance, so you'd have to have a separate one for that, is the one that we would do.
To make this declare an emergency and put it in.
Effective immediately tonight.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
You have a project, have you, Kristen?
No.
I think she does. She's pretty quick on that. So we got a motion and second to declare this an emergency.
So one more roll call now.
Misty Cottle,
Yes.
Jan Throgmorton.
Yes.
John Collins.
Yes.
Don Rollins.
Yes.
And Joe Tower.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thanks. Next, we need approval to select the bid from Thomason Asphalt for the paving projects that have been spoken about before. And that is on the last page. It shows all 4 bids that were received. Thomason was the low bid. And I believe Isaac told me if we can get this approved, that paving would start in like 2 weeks. Start and be completed in 2 weeks. Oh, you're
Yeah.
still here, okay.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. I make a motion that we accept the bid.
Can we do a combined motion to accept the bid and also approve the contract so that when it's ready, the mayor can go ahead and sign it without having to wait?
That sounds good to me. I make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second. We need a roll call on that one. those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. So, mayor's comments, don't have a lot this month. It's been really quiet. I will point out that we're getting a new coffee, drive-through coffee business. Not sure who they are, and so just for the record, I know the city's Facebook users aren't in here with us tonight, but maybe they'll watch on YouTube. The city does not ask for a dress code when issuing business permits. So, for all of you who are not aware, I guess we're having a new coffee shop come into town. Someone started the rumor via Facebook that this would be like Cowboy Coffee in Fayetteville. I wasn't aware of what Cowboy Coffee was either, but after...
Did you go by there?
No, but my wife pulled it up for me on Facebook, and they don't wear a lot of clothes in Cowboy Coffee.
No, they don't.
The owner of this establishment called Christie first thing the next morning and assured the city that that is not what they were putting in down here. So,
Who is that owner of this establishment?
I don't know the name off the top of my head. They're from out of town, but hope to move to Westport. I think they're from the Rogers area, but hope to plan to move down here.
Okay.
They have property bought.
So it's not anybody local.
again,
You can go on.
just to reiterate, Facebook is not,
The gospel?
it is not the gospel.
Oh, come on, if
The
it's on the
city,
internet, it's gotta be.
the city does use it as one-way communication to provide announcements, but it is not the place to go to get all of your information, and that is a prime example.
I noticed the booth in the parking lot.
Yes.
Is that where it's going?
Yes, yes. Other comments, citywide harassment training is taking place the 15th or 16th Street, Christie? 16th.
Whatever Wednesday is.
Yeah. So next Wednesday, and it's mandatory for all city personnel to be there for harassment training.
Is that to teach us how or how not?
How
I mean,
not.
harassment training is.
You're not supposed to joke about that.
Sorry.
I say harassment
It's-
training
I
to
know
say
what
that
he's
it
saying.
encompasses
just
multiple
kidding.
varieties of
Yes.
harassment. So,
Yes.
anyway, all the city personnel will be there to sit through that and have that training. And that's all I have.
Make the motion to take.
Motion and second, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries.